Yes. Okay. We are recording and we are live on YouTube, so you can begin.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:22 p.m. And I'll take roll call next. Brown. Aviana. Here. Gutierrez Guari.
Present.
Papua.
Present.
And Rudolph. Present. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And approval of agenda with revision requests. Item 3 is resolution 2111. AB 361 has given school boards the option to hold their board meetings via teleconference when meeting in person may present a risk to the health and safety of its attendees. This will allow board members to meet via teleconference and continue to participate as an active board member. This resolution must be reevaluated every 30 days. I need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2111.
Motion to approve resolution 21-11.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 4. Public comment. Dr. Bitter, are there any public comments?
So there were 2 public comments that were listed that submitted a form. One was from a teacher, Luisa Santos. What she was going to speak on is being addressed in the board meeting. So she has said that I can read her comment during when we do our presentation on our February food drive. And then the second was from a Christina Gonzalez, who is not on. And what she submitted stated that her topic was submitting and her comment was mitting. So that was what was submitted. And that is all I have.
Item 5, consent items.
I had a couple of questions on the consent items.
Go ahead.
One, if you could elaborate on the garden program from Strategic Energy Innovations. And then 2, the line item on Chromebooks, was curious about how many Chromebooks we're getting. And then if you could refresh our memory on what our refresh program is and what we do with our surplus.
So our garden program is we go through Strategic Innovations. It has changed companies over the past, I think 2 years ago. It's $25,000 for the entire year, and they provide us with a garden fellow who is our garden teacher that works in our garden, teaches kindergarten through 5th grade. Every kindergarten through 5th grade gets to participate in a garden class, which is tied to our next generation science standards at least once a week. And so they bill us twice a year, half at the beginning of the year, half in January, February. And we've been extremely happy with them. Mr. Harridges, our 5th grade teacher, that's how we actually got him as our 5th grade teacher, because he actually started out as our garden teacher. The second question was around the Chromebooks. So the cost was for, we purchased 100. We actually submitted and were granted a grant from the federal government for up to 380 Chromebooks. So Raphael, our IT person, can't roll in 380 all at once. So we ordered 100. As long as we order all 380 by June 30th, we will get full reimbursement from the federal government. So we've already submitted for reimbursement for those 100. So we put in a request, and this was new money that the federal government had given to districts. You had to apply. And it was specifically related to COVID and how to get technology in the hands of kids in school districts. And so I submitted for us to replace all of our Chromebooks. Our normal refresh cycle is every 3 years. We do about a third of them every 3 years, or a third. So this is allowing us to replace all of them. We have some new ones from last year and years from the year before. So we're not going to roll those out yet. We're going to move through, and our oldest one, he's already pulled out and put the new ones in. And we'll get the remaining from the 380, another 280 before June 30th. And then, as I said, we usually refresh on a 3-year cycle, but because this grant came through, we were able to just to say we're going to buy all new ones. We also received from the grant an opportunity for us to buy 100 iPads to help us with that replenishment, as well as to help pay for our T-Mobile hotspots for any of our kids. So we will get reimbursed this year for the hotspot contract dollar amount that we were paying as well, so that any student who needs a hotspot can have one. So, and we have some of them checked out. We still have some if families need them, and our teachers know just to let us know. And then what happens is I take those lists that are old, and I bring them to the board for you to surplus them, because we would no longer use them. And then in the past, if they are still working, we try to sell them to our community members, to our families, obviously at an extremely discounted rate. So our Chromebooks in the past, we've sold for like $50. So it depends upon what shape they're in. And then if we can't sell them, then we would donate them, but all of that would go through the board surplus property process.
Thank you. Oh, and could we get pictures of the garden? Or get an
Yeah,
update? That'd be great.
I'll bring pictures the next time, and maybe I'll have the garden teacher come and speak.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
If there aren't any other questions regarding consent items, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent items.
A motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 6 is educational services, and I will pass it back over to Superintendent.
Okay, give me a minute and you'll see my presentation on the screen. Okay, so we're going to start with the oral report. So 2022 supplement to annual update. So this is a report that is only being asked of us this year. It is not a normal report that we give. And the reason that we give it is because after the 2021 Budget Act was adopted, there came new money afterwards. And the Budget Act, when it's adopted, most of the things that are in there, we have described in our LCAP. And these additional funds were not included in the LCAP because we found out about them after the whole process had already been completed. So we have already, all 3 of these, the board has already received a plan for these on how we plan on spending them. This report simply says, okay, we asked you to do 4 additional plans. Now what we want you to do is in this supplement to the annual budget, put it all together so we know it's all in one place. And ideally, what this should be is, instead of asking us, they should have done this to begin with. Instead of asking for additional plans, they should have one large, that's the purpose of the LCAP. And then anytime you get additional monies, if you're going to use that additional monies, it should be aligned to your LCAP. That would be the ideal situation. So my hope is, since they have this supplement and they think about the annual update for each year of the LCAP, that they will add those components in, because the number of plans that districts are expected to be submitting right now are quite high based on these one-time new monies that are coming in. So everything that I'm sharing with you right now, you've already seen over the course of the fall semester at various board meetings. You've approved the plans that we've already moved through. So this isn't any new information. It's just a reminder. And then the document that was attached to the agenda is the document that I actually have to submit to the state that just says all of this information. So I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail because you've already approved these plans, but these should just be reminders. So since the Budget Act of 2021, we received 2 additional block grants, the Educator Effectiveness one for $114,000 and the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant for $134,000. We also received an additional $41,000 in concentration grant funding through our LCFF monies. And then we received a total of $575,000 for our SR3, and that's the federal COVID money. So reminder, the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, remember we adopted the plan in December. We have until June of 2026 to spend the money. So we haven't spent any of the money yet because the plan was not to spend any of it this year because we had those other ESSER monies and extend it through the next 3 years through June of 2026. What that means is when we start going through the LCAP and reevaluating for next year, we may make some shifts in this, and that's what's allowable. Is they would never expect for something that we came up with in December of 2021 to be locked in stone for June of 2026. A lot of things could happen. Could you imagine if we in 2015 had said, this is what we're going to do in March of 2020, and then COVID hit? We would have been like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So that's why there's always opportunities for us to make adjustments. So this is just a reminder that this is how we allocated the bulk of the 114,000. The bulk goes to coaching to support our professional learning for our staff, with 40,000 for English language arts, 20,000 for accelerated learning, 20,000 towards our anti-racist teaching, 10,000 towards UDL and inclusive teaching, and 20,000 towards English learners. And then the remaining approximately $5,000 is to provide stipends to any teachers that are interested in helping us create an ethnic studies course that can either start out at the middle school and then delve deeper into integration in K-5. And so I'm getting ready to ask for volunteers for that as we think about what that's going to look like. The Expanded Learning Opportunities Program was to get us through June of 2022. So they gave this to us last year. We used some of the money on paying for our contract with iReady. This is paying for our summer school and our after school programs. And then it's also helping bridge the gap from a different grant that we had for coaching around math that we've been using this year. Then the SR3 money, again, is through September of 2024. They had 3 big buckets: in-person funds. So we were using that money for MERV 13 filters, PPE for students and staff, and then paying our classified staff to be here in the mornings before school and or after school to ensure that we have a closed campus. Whereas in the past, we would not have done that. Lost instructional time is the other bucket. So we are using this to help pay for summer school as well, our after school math tutoring, and then for our LLI instructors to support reading during the school year. And then remaining funds, we allocated some of the money towards counseling. And then we had said we wanted to allocate some towards STEAM materials, which we haven't spent yet. Again, we have till 2024. So there are opportunities for us as we go through the LCAP process in the spring for us to rethink how we're going to allocate this money if we want to make any changes. So that's it on the supplement presentation. So again, this is all in one document that I send to the County Office of Ed to show we've wrote all these plans, and now you can see it all in one place. The other presentation that I had was the mid-year report. So in the past, I've given updates at various times throughout the year on where we are towards our LCAP goals. And this year they decided to help districts out who may not be giving updates to give them another template that they could use to give their update. So I filled that out as well. So that's what was attached. And what it does is it's actually a benefit. I think they did good this time. It goes through each of your goals and it says, this is what your metrics are. And I want you to say, where are you in those metrics mid-year? Do a mid-year check-in. And then where are you in terms of finances? You said this is what you were going to spend. Where are you mid-year? So for some of the metrics, they're not listed on here because I can't report on them mid-year. So for example, several of the metrics throughout the LCAP are how we do on the SBAC. Well, the SBAC isn't given until May, so I can't give you any data on that. But on the things that I can give you data on, that's what I'm reporting for the mid-year report. So goal number 1 is about a healthy and positive school culture, supportive learning environment. So parental engagement, we want 100% of our parents to be engaged in multiple ways. So unfortunately, one of the parts of that metric is volunteerism. And obviously we're still in COVID. So that's a gap in that, but there are other ways that our families are getting engaged. And I'm excited that our PTO is getting more involvement and we're getting tons of, when we share later about the food drive, you're going to see how much involvement. That's a way that our parents are engaged in our school in creating a healthy and positive school culture. Parent-teacher conferences, 100% on one formal conference. So we don't have 100% yet. The majority of our families participated in the fall, but we also will have another one in the spring for any students who might need an additional check-in. Chronic absenteeism. Last year, our baseline for 1920 was 10% of our kids were chronically absent, and chronically absent is considered 10% or more absences. Right now, we're below that mark. We only have 6.8%. So that's a good thing because that's what we want. We want to decrease. By 2024, we wanted to be at 2.5%. So I'm being quite honest with you this year, and we've had this conversation throughout the year at various board meetings about our attendance this year. And so in a later goal, I'll talk about our attendance rate. I don't know if this chronic absentee number is going to get higher or if it's going to stay static. Just because of us asking kids to stay home because they're sick and or because they have COVID. So that number might go up. Right now it looks good. We're below 10%, which is what we want this year. And so we're still keeping an eye on it.
So real quick on the chronic absence. If a student stays home because they're quarantining, does that count as absenteeism?
It does if they don't do, so it depends. So when they participate in independent study, so if they're gone for 3 days and we give them a packet of work and or they go online and they complete it, no, it does not. But if they don't do the work for the time that they're absent, then yes, it's considered absent. They have to provide evidence that they are still participating in the learning process, which are packets that are sent home. And so that's one of the struggles this year is because we have a high absentee rate, our teachers are doing packets and getting online much more than they've ever done in the past. And it's a lot of extra work. And so if we can get those back, so that number might not be accurate either because maybe the student has done the work and we just haven't entered in the computer. Right now they're considered absent, but that number may go lower if they turn in all their work. So that's a great question. Elective course enrollment, we're at 100%. Our baseline was 100. Suspensions, our baseline was 2.3%, and we currently have 0 suspensions. And then same with expulsions. I've been here 9 years and we've had 0 expulsions, and I'd like to keep it that way. Goal number 2, increase the academic achievement of all students while closing the opportunity and achievement gaps within our student groups. This particular goal, SBAC, is a huge goal on there, or a huge metric. So obviously we can't account for that yet. We do have 100% of our students have access to state standards, and our baseline was 100%. For highly qualified teachers, our goal is 100% of our teachers are considered highly qualified. Last year we had 91% because we had 2 teachers that were considered interns. They were still working on their program, and they have since cleared their credential. And so now we're at 100%. So we're at our mark that we want to be at. Goal number 3 is our new goal this year that is specifically related to reading. So by 2024, 75% of our students will be reading at grade level as measured on either Fountas and Pinnell, the iReady, or the SBAC. And so our SBAC goals and metrics are not on there, but our iReady is 22% are at or above grade level, which is up from 14% in September. And our baseline is 36%. So we're on track. For our F&P, 40% of our students are at or above grade level, which is up from 28% in September. And our baseline from last year, which is the end of the year, 35%. So we've actually exceeded our F&P goal in terms of reading already, and we're not even done with the year. Now, what that means is, it means we may get way higher, which is my hope. It also means that maybe there might be some students that are flatlining. So we need to make sure we keep an eye on them as well, and we don't lose them slipping. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then goal 4 is to provide resources and a physical environment that promotes meaningful teaching and learning. So the metrics on this are one-to-one technology. We've been one-to-one for several years. That's our baseline. We're at 100%. Our goal was to have 1 gigabit of broadband. Our baseline was 1 gigabit. We're still there. We're working with our E-rate to see about getting up to 2 gigabytes, because now that we're allowing kids to have, devices at home, bring them in, those types of things. And then just as we know, speed, the more people who have access, the slower it goes. So we want to make sure that we're able to beef that up. So this is where our attendance rate also comes in. You want to, our baseline last year or 2 years ago was that our attendance was at 96.3%. We currently are at 92.01%. And again, that's because this year is an anomaly due to COVID. And so I don't want us to think that we have slipped. We have, but there are some ulterior extra situations that are occurring. And so we're not okay with this, but we want to make sure that we're still mindful about why this is happening and think about some things that we can do to change it. Enrollment, last year we were at 75.5% of our enrollment capacity. This year we're at 73.8, and we knew that people were moving out of the Bay Area. And so that's one thing that we need to take into consideration as well. But as we get our new developments up and running, those numbers are going to start to increase as well. And then facilities, the best you can be is good. And we were good before, and we're still good. Can you make sure that you, yes, thank you.
Just out of a, green, yellow, red, at what point would our percentage be considered going from green to yellow and yellow to red?
Well, it really is, I can't really answer that because it depends upon each grade level. Because the number within each grade, so right now right now we have 2 classes per every grade. One of our grades are borderline to where it may only be 1 class next year because there's only 27 kids, or 28 kids. And so that's where I would be concerned, is if any of our grade levels start to drop to where they are really, like, if we have less than 24 kids in a grade level. That would be a concern. We have 1 grade level that it's borderline, but it's in the middle of the pack. And so our kindergarten and our preschool, and now they're going to start allowing 4-year-olds to go and be borderline for TK and kindergarten. So our lower grade levels are higher. And, several years ago, I think our 7th grade class, well, it ended up being our 8th grade class, had 31 kids. And then that went out. And then we had, again, 2 per every grade level. So unfortunately, in a district of our size, it can fluctuate each year. And so you'd want to go out, and if you can recruit current 3rd graders, we'd want to recruit current 3rd graders.
Real quick question on the development on the overlook. Note that it's so has on the overlook development.
Yes.
Have there been any families that have kids going to other school districts?
So going to other school districts, I know that we had 1 family that chose to do homeschooling just due to COVID. Off the top of my head, I have not signed any inter-district permits for them to leave the overlook in our community to go to another community. But I can run a report and share that at the next board meeting to be specific. Unless they're going to private, and I don't know. But I could also try to find out that information. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So then what was next for Ed Services is around the data zone. So when we've talked about data zone, we talked about it sharing data, right? The purpose of it is really for us to go to a one-stop shop for us to see all of our data, and then to dig down to eventually get to a point where a teacher can click on a student and see that individual student's overall rate. One of the issues, though, is privacy. And so what I did is I took snapshots of our data zone data instead of me going to the website, because I didn't want to inadvertently click on one and then it goes down to a student and you start to see student names. In my conversations with Data Zone, I'm excited to share that next year they are going to be rolling out the ability for, and Dave, you might have to give me the word again.
Profile.
Like a profile, exactly. So board members will be able to see this much information. The public can see this much information. A district level can see everything. A principal can only see their school. A teacher can only see their class. And so they're going to be able to roll that out. And so next year, we will be able to put on our website, our data zone link. And then all of our communities, as well as you, community members, can click on that link and go and see all of the data from a big picture point of view through Data Zone. So what I did for tonight was this information I've already shared with you in my report out for the LCAP, but it's a way for you to say this is, I can get it all in one place. So this first one shows our iReady math scores. I wish I could have made it a little bit bigger. Next time I'll make it bigger. But what you can see on the left is that the fall was our math. This is just math. So the first column is fall and the second column was winter right before break. So what we want is we want blue and green to get bigger because that's meeting and exceeding. And we want red and orange to get smaller. Is that happening?
Yes.
Yes. So we're headed in the right direction. So that's what this math shows. Then the one on the right-hand side shows you by grade level. So we're able to then go in and say, oh, by grade level, where are our kids? So is there a grade level that we need to focus more on? And then as a school, we can go even deeper by seeing, okay, well, what does this particular teacher's class look like? What students are affected by this? Are they our English learners? Are they our students with IEPs? What kind of other support do we need to be able to provide? We did the same thing for reading. So overall for ELA, again, we want red and orange to go down and green and blue to go up. And we are increasing from fall to winter. So we're headed in the right direction.
You may not know the answer to this, but why is KN in 6th grade on the right-hand side?
Sometimes they go in and I don't know the answer to that. It has to do, since you pointed that out, I can go back to them and say, hey, the grades are messed up. Can you reformat it? And then they'll go back in and reformat it. So somewhere in their coding, there was a glitch, but I can have that fixed. Dave, ask your question.
Which color signifies at grade level?
Green.
One in the map
Green.
standards-based evaluation. So green.
Green.
Is at grade level.
Yes.
Blue would be above grade level.
Yes.
Okay.
So are they gonna be able to put up a legend to determine which colors represent?
Yes. So when you're in it live, it says it. So if I was in it live, I could put my mouse over it. And when I hover over the red, it would say 2 or more grade levels below. And orange would say, or that's 3 or more grade levels below. Orange would say 2 or more grade levels below or nearing. Yellow would say 1 or grade level below. And then green would say, so yes. So when you're in it live, so the fact that you're asking these questions, that's great because this is feedback I can give back to them so that to make sure that when you have your login ability, what you can see, that it clearly shares with you what each one is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at the right side.
So talking to the mic, please.
Oh,
Sorry.
by looking at the right side, thank you. What will be a concern grade from all of us?
Well, so a couple things. So one is we want to look from fall to winter. So we are improving from fall to winter. If this was the only piece of data I was looking at and I'd look at this, I'd go, okay, let me look at my 8th graders and find out what's going on in that class. Did they not take the test seriously? Let me go and talk to them. Because, you know, sometimes 14-year-olds don't take the test seriously. So let's figure out and look at that. So that's why we're not just relying on iReady data. And we're also looking at FMP and we're also looking at the SBAC eventually. So this is a piece of information for us to get information. And then it helps us work with the teachers and say, because some of them, they might look at it and they go, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Audra's reading books that she reads at the 11th grade. What happened? Let me have a conversation with her. And they can look at that information in more detail. And then this is our Fountas and Pinnell. Yes.
On the slide before this, is there any way to put the grade levels side by side instead of splitting it between fall and winter and just having it like first grade, second grade.
I
and showing the
can
two
ask that
differences?
question. I can ask that question.
Thank you.
Change to compare grades.
Actually, I mean, maybe we even have a separate discussion about what kind of report types we would like to see, because one of the comparisons I'd like to say is, I'd like to see fourth grade from last year compared to fifth grade this year compared to sixth grade next year.
So I don't think they can hear you, so I'm going to repeat what you said. So Dave is asking if we can choose the types of reports. So for example, if we want to pull a report of cohort students. So what that means is if I want to take my current fifth graders, I want to see how did they do last year in fourth grade, the year before that in third grade, the year before that in second grade, and compare a cohort. So to see where the children are moving from grade level to grade level.
So,
So for
trending.
example, yes. So then we can see a multitude of things. We can see if a student is continually on grade level, then school is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's giving them an extra year, the year that they're getting their schooling. If you have a student that's behind, and then you see them jump 2 grade levels and then continue to grow, you can see that. Or if you see a student who's been on grade level up through fourth grade, and then all of a sudden in fifth grade is below grade level, then it gives you it's kind of a flag to say, hey, you might want to look into what's going on either with this individual child or the class as a whole, depending upon what the rest of the data says. So yes, I can. So when we get to subcommittees, we can talk about data subcommittees on what reports that I can then go back and ask for. Yes.
I just have one question with regards to the integration with our existing school-wise. How would this play?
School-wise, so Rick asked, how does our school information system play into this? That's where it pulls. That's one of the data pools that it pulls information from. So our enrollment data, our absenteeism, all of that comes from Schoolwise. Nobody stands here and enters in information. And then they pull the iReady from our iReady account. And they pull Fountas and Pinnell. Right now, it was data entry. And then so we're setting it up to where teachers will be able to enter in their own information. And then they're also going to be working with CalPads to be able to pull that information as well.
Are we having technical difficulties with the mics?
Yeah, if they're saying, I'm getting texts, they can't hear you. Yeah. So I'm going to repeat your question because we could hear you at the beginning.
Well, I'll also, I get to talk loud. This is something that we can maybe bring up in the subcommittee if it makes more sense. But I'd like to also discuss what tools we may already have or may want to get that would basically enable students and parents to see on a daily basis what assignments they've been assigned and what has been turned in and not turned in.
So we have a tool.
Okay.
And so part of that conversation is determining how that tool is utilized, because some teachers utilize it more so than others. And some parents utilize it more so than others, even within a class that's utilizing it all the time.
Is that school-wise?
Yes.
So we
Yes.
do have a tool already. that
Yes.
facilitates that.
Yes, yes. But we can talk more about that
Okay.
yep. So that was it on Data Zone. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Rob Dennis for our audit report. So I'm going to stop sharing so that as he talks, he can be large. I'm gonna spotlight you. There you go.
Just what I like is the spotlight.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, as it turns out, this is a good idea. I was on Zoom as I ended up with COVID this week. So, but no symptoms. Well, none any worse than the allergies I normally get this time of the year. So that worked out okay. So, so going to the report, we can start on page 1. That's kind of the opinion that is really what I'm hired to do, is provide opinion. By the way, I think I've seen you all before. Rob Dennis, I'm the auditor for the district. I've been doing the audit for a few years now. So anyhow, the big thing that we do is issue an opinion on the financial statements, that they are free of material misstatement. And I'm happy to report you all received what's called a clean opinion or an modified opinion. There's 4 varieties, if you will: a clean, modified or qualified opinion, disclaimer, and adverse, and you got none of those, so that's always a good thing. And so anyhow, I'll kind of run through it pretty quickly here, but I'm going to open it up to any questions that you might have. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. I can't really, because I have the report up on my screen, so I can't really see the questions, but if you want to holler out, that's fine. I can stop. So anyhow, that was the beginning. So then just a quick overview on the financial statement starts on page 5. And essentially the district ended up a very similar position as it was last year. There wasn't a huge swing in the entity-wide financial statements, which is what's called the full accrual. Obviously, you got increase in COVID funding for the general fund and just better operating performance this year for the general fund. And so you did end up in a positive, a more positive situation than relative to last year, which is good. And so that was kind of the big thing that I wanted to mention. And so anyhow, the management discussion and analysis is kind of a abbreviated version of the financial statements. And if you like to look at it, that's page 5 through 15. Then the more detailed financial statements start on page 16. And that's where you have, as I said, the entity-wide statements. And then when you go to page 18, that's where you see the fund financial statements, which is probably what you're more used to seeing on a more regular basis from whether it be the first interim or second interim financial reports. That's where it's more analogous to that. And so then that continues through page 23. Then when you get to page 24, that's just a detail of the financial statements and kind of gives more depth to what was reported in the actual financials themselves. So it's more verbose, I guess you could say, and a lot more wordy, but there is good information. But I don't disagree that it's a very dry read. So anyhow, I'm going to skip on down to page 73, which is where we have what we call the GAGAS opinion, or it's the government, the generally accepted government audit standard opinion. And essentially you did have one finding. It was actually a carryover from the prior year. I wouldn't look at it necessarily as an issue for this year of 2021, basically because this was such an off year since obviously the pandemic. I haven't held districts to, a terribly high standard, any district, by the way, to, making sure controls are in place or anything like that, just because it's just tough. You did your distance learning this past year. And so the business side of it kind of took a back seat in that sense. And that's where I'm not, it's kind of a hold harmless just because there wasn't that much activity coming into the district anyway, in terms of what related to the finding. And then they have the state finding, state opinion, which starts on page 75, no findings there. And then the actual findings themselves was written up on, there was only one, and it just is on the cash collections. And again, it was really a tough thing to even implement this year, just because there wasn't much in the way of cash collections this year. And so that sort of gets spelled out on page 82. And so with that, I will kind of open it up to any questions you might have.
So I want to first I'm going to say thank you.
Hey, you know what? I don't mean to cut you off here, Audra, but I did want to say I do want to thank the staff, Annette, Meryl, and Rocio, just and Audra, of course. It was really helpful. They were very helpful in providing all the information I asked for. There was never any issue of getting information from anyone. Everyone was super helpful, and I just want to acknowledge how much I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I was just going to point out that Annette figured out where the gap was, and it's not going to happen again. So part of the gap was twofold. One is we have a retiree who was submitting checks for their benefits in advance, and she was holding on to it. And so now she knows she has to say to the person, I can't take a post-dated check from you. I have to deposit it within 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
And so that was where kind of that flag was, because the person had extenuating circumstances. And so we didn't think anything of it. She She kept it and they all got deposited, but it shows up as a flag on the audit. And so she was really bothered by the fact that you flagged her, and it's not gonna happen again. But that's one of the things that we're changing as well.
And
And so I was
that's a good
excited.
point.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was a good point that I didn't probably realize is that the checks were being post dated. So yeah, because I was looking at what the check date was, and it did have these odd dates, and so but that makes more sense. And so and yeah, so that's great, and sounds like she's gonna have that well in hand. I'm not concerned at all.
Thank you. And I said each year we've gotten better, so that's a plus too. So my goal is next year we won't have any findings.
Well, you got what, 2 of them cleaned up already, so that was good.
Yes. So board members, do you have any questions for Rob?
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you. Hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
All right, you too.
So next on the agenda is to approve increasing the daily rate for substitute teaching. Currently, our substitute teaching rate is $175 a day for the sub. Recently, over the course of the year, I check with surrounding districts and I check across because we use swing and how we compare. We have never been the highest paying district. We've never been the lowest paying district. We've always been right in the middle. As you know, it is very difficult to get subs right now. And one of our neighboring districts just raised theirs to $190. And so I am recommending that we raise ours to 200 because we do need to be competitive if we are going to be able to get subs. So I'm asking the board to increase our daily rate from $175 to $200 a day.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Discussion on it.
Sure.
How many subs do we usually need?
I can't hear.
She's asking how many subs do we need monthly? I don't have that concrete number for you. Today, I know that we needed 1 to be a floater so that teachers could participate in IEPs. We needed 1 because a teacher was out ill. And we needed 1, at least 1, because we were doing math coaching. So we had subs cover their classes where they're able to observe each other. So today alone was 3. Yesterday was 1. And so it fluctuates depending upon if professional learning is occurring, depending upon if we're having IEPs. We have a handful, literally like 2 to 3 people that are regular people that we can call. But for example, we put in a request for a sub for today, and it was accepted by somebody. And then he declined it this morning because he found out he was a close contact and he didn't have access to a test. So I appreciate the fact that he, said, I don't think I would feel safer staying home for you and for myself. But then so I subbed in the morning while we waited for somebody else to pick up the job and come in a little bit later. And so it fluctuates. But I do think that if there are surrounding districts that we're competing with, hopefully this will help. I can't guarantee that it will. Part of it is just bodies in terms of there's not a lot of people out there. But I think that it would be good for us to know that it's not because we're not competing with surrounding districts. They're not saying yes to somebody else and no to us because they pay more. I don't want that to be the reason. But I can pull the numbers and see how many people are out on a daily basis. That's not difficult.
Is there any way we can collaborate with our neighbors districts and see?
We're all in the same boat and we're all pulling from the same, most of us use an organization called Swing.
That's the same pool.
Yep.
where they pull from.
What I do have information that I received today was that the County Office of Ed is working with San Francisco State to get emergency credentials for people. And she reported to us today that there were 46 people that had said they would be interested in. So we're hoping within the next month, there will be a larger pool that we will have access to as well.
In that way too, that if we decided to even look for teachers, to fill up a spot, or if the teacher relocating or.
Yes.
out, Yeah, why not? I mean, teachers, we don't make a lot. So I go ahead.
So are you going to second it then?
Yes.
Okay.
I second the 200.
All in favor?
Aye.
Real quick before we proceed, I just wanted to make a note that there's a laptop timed out and the message says meeting has ended or someone has started a new meeting with this account.
That's why you can't. Okay.
Yeah, us, we don't have
What do you have?
a next week.
Okay. So, we're going to do two things.
On my phone, so-
I'm going to hand it over to Maya. Maya, I don't see you though.
I saw her
There you are.
earlier.
There we go. Okay, so Maya, I'm going to hand it over to you. And you are going to start presenting on, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the topics, and then I will try to fix their microphones. So start with Black History Month.
Okay, can you all see me? I've never.
Yes.
Okay. I can't see myself, so hopefully I don't look terrible. Oh, there I am. Now I can see myself. Hi. Hi, Joy.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, so I'm so sorry that I'm not there. This is probably the first day off I've taken in about 4 years, I think. I have some family things going on, so I am just really sorry to not be there. It's hard for me to not be on campus and not be at the meeting. So that said, let's get started with Black History Month. So I really want to give a huge, huge, huge shout out to Mr. Dyson and Nishat Taylor, Miss Taylor, our kindergarten teacher. Mr. Dyson on Bayshore TV, on our Bayshore Family Circle, has been doing a biography every single day for Black History Month. And there'll be a virtual assembly. It's a little more low key than it's been. I mean, I think we've had before COVID, I mean, you know, my first year as principal, like we really just did some incredible things. And obviously none of that can happen now. We did have something that I feel was a little bit, we had like a very robust one last year. And I just have to say that the capacity of staff right now, like people are working so incredibly hard. And this is a virtual assembly. It's not going to be quite as elaborate as the one last year, but it will be a culmination of all of the different biographies and sort of like an interactive thing. So I think on the one hand, we didn't bring anybody from the outside, which is what we did a year ago. But this is, as Mr. Dyson, I think, is really getting incredible grip on like how to do all of this virtually and kind of have things be more interactive. It should be pretty interesting to see. So we're excited about that. So that'll happen at the end of the month. So that is Black History Month. Does anyone have any questions for me about that?
No, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's
Fourth.
great.
Okay. So, yeah, I just have to, I cannot iterate enough. I cannot say enough, just how proud I am of the work that some of our staff are just going above and beyond expectations during a time when things are just difficult for everyone. So I'm really, really proud to work with people like that.
Maya, Teresa has a question.
Okay. You might have to repeat it because I've been having trouble hearing you, Teresa.
I don't have a question, I have a suggestion. First of all, I would like to again mirror back the great shout out to, why do I sound like
She's reverberating.
I'm hypernating?
I'll go.
No, it's a lot of feedback. It's reverberating.
So, thank you, Mr. Dyson and Ms. Taylor for putting together that. However, I would like to, in addition to that, to use our beautiful board member to even have some feedback in or add her into the planning of you know, Black History Month. That's just my tiny suggestion, and see what she have there. This is the purpose why we're sitting on these chairs. Not to come correct or anything, but just to add our, suggest or add something that she, of course, who else to ask but the beautiful Miss Brown. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that I distributed a flyer that the city of Daly City is having a big program, virtual, and it's only like 45 minutes, but that's something that can be shared with the families, and yeah.
And I have that, and so we'll end up pushing it out. But I wanted her to share it tonight first. And it should have been, I believe I uploaded it to the handouts on the agenda.
Yeah. So Saturday, February 19th, from 11 a.m. to 12:45 p.m.
Is that going on the website?
We will put it on our website. Yes, yes.
And the lady, the person that is putting together this is really good. What's her name? Leslie. Maybe in the future, moving forward, we can, invite her to be, to see if she can share some knowledge for our school. Because she's doing this in the same thing. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Okay, so next is social, emotional, and mental health, and Ms. Baker is going to speak about that.
Okay. So, and thank you for that. And thank you, Ms. Brown.
Maya, you muted yourself.
Oh, I can hear her.
I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Oh, hold on one second.
Okay.
Never mind, it's me. Don't say anything.
Can I talk now?
Now you can. Go.
Okay. So I was just saying that I will reach out to Ms. Brown.
Maya, you're echoing now.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna fix it.
am I good to go?
Mhm.
Okay. So, yes, I will reach out to Ms. Brown. There might be time to add some things for this here because I think it's actually really important to include her in at least one of our biographies that we have for this month. I think that would be really special. Okay, Ms. Brown, are you good with that?
Yes, please invite me.
Yes, please invite her.
Excellent. Okay. So moving on to social, emotional, and mental health, I wanted to give you an update on our wellness team. So you may remember that before, when COVID first happened, when COVID started and we started that year, the spring happened, everybody scattered. There were a lot of kids that we didn't know what happened. We were scrambling to make contact with people. That was a very typical experience for most schools when that all transpired. And then in the fall, we formed a wellness team, which was essentially every single staff member at the school being tasked with being in contact with anywhere between 4 and 10 families, kind of depended, that were catered to. We tried to make it be people who spoke the same language, definitely people who spoke the same language, and then also folks who had connections with different people on our campus so that these weren't just calls from strangers. And we had a whole protocol where they would call and have a script that they would read and do weekly check-ins. So that was really, really fantastic. And it also was not sustainable for the entire staff to be doing that. It was important, but it was not sustainable. We also had a home visit team. And so what would happen was that wellness coordinators would, if it was communicated to them that there were issues going on with our families, they would then funnel that to the home visit team, which was a small team working with Faith in Action. And we delivered food, we did home visits, we connected families with Faith in Action to troubleshoot issues around everything from immigration to employment and housing. And so that was really great the way that that went. And so this year, the wellness team is actually the home visit. It's the home visit team, but we've renamed it the wellness team because we realized that home visits was a component of what we were doing, but it wasn't all of what we were doing. So this year we have our wellness team is consists of myself, Miss June, Mr. Allen, Miss Irene, Mary Catherine, Miss Rozier, and I think that's it. I'm hoping that's it. I thought it was in the bullet points, but I'm pretty sure that I covered everyone. And then we're working with Eva, from the woman from Faith in Action, because she's a really wonderful resource for, Faith in Action is becoming more, closer and closer to a very important part of working with our community in terms of outreach to bigger issues that are harder for our school. We can't just deal with within our school community. So, counseling needs, that gets funneled to me, which I funnel to Mr. Brian, and we can hook up families with counseling. Immigration issues goes to Faith in Action. Attendance, that'll be called, Miss Millie, that's what I forgot, is Miss Millie. So Miss Millie is also on our team. And so we have things divided by grade level. And so there's sort of each of us has a little span of families in certain grade levels. It's been communicated to the staff. It's in our weekly update every week that this is the person who you should be communicating with per grade level if you have a family that you're concerned about. And in addition to this, this has been my priority is really trying, as a principal, is really trying to advocate for as much student voice involved with decision-making as is appropriate and possible. So YPAR is not going to exist as an elective for this last trimester, which may change next year, but that is how things, how the cards fell this year. But there are students who want to continue doing some of this work that YPAR has ended their elective with. It's really incredible, which is the food drive, which I know is working very closely with Pitt. And so Teresa, I know that you can obviously speak to it. It's happening right now. We're very excited. 1 week is going to be.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. So after this real big push for this food drive, we are going to have a food and clothing pantry, which will be located in a closet that's at the north end of the school underneath the stairs. We already have it set up. We don't need anything other than donations. So once we get through this food drive and this push, the pantry is going to be something that just exists on our campus and is facilitated by the wellness team, which will then start incorporating between 3 and 5 students to be a part of this wellness team. So so I'm very, very excited about that. And that is very much a work in progress. So if you have questions for me, I can definitely field questions, but it's not happening yet. It is still in the works. And that is it, I think. And then I can just answer any questions that you have.
I'm sad to hear that the YPAR is no longer going to be happening. When I received the flyer for the Tongan Drive, the Can Drive from Ms. Santos, I want to give out a shout for them. Ms. Santos, the YPAR students, and Coach Kevin for putting that together. So on the flyer, it says the drive for Tongan. And then when I receive another email that's saying that the week 1 will go to Tonga and then week 2 will be for a pantry. Here's my thoughts. When we first started this, when you guys started this, it was only to donate to Tonga. And then now you added a week 2 to there. So
Does it say anything there that the week 2 will go to the pantry for
It's,
school?
it's not to go to the pantry.
No, well, that's what it says, that week 1 from the 7th to the 12th,
Is for Tonga.
Tonga, and then the week 12, I mean, from there to the 18th will go
To our
to
community.
your community. Here's my thing, here's a couple of things that I was thinking. What's the difference of that pantry and the food program the food harvest that you already have on the grant?
So can I totally have an answer for you. I mean, sort of an answer, a discussion, I suppose. So when Audra and I went to Maine, one of the things that we saw at the schools there when we visited the folks from Tree was schools that just had a pantry that just existed. It's very different than a push where you get like a huge box full of supplies. It's something where it will be monitored by the wellness team, and families could make an appointment. And the YPAR group, which I also have to give a huge shout out to Coach Kevin and Louisa, because they've done a stellar job with YPAR. The kids were brainstorming ideas about how we could make those appointments and have parents on camp, have that be okay to have a parent on campus come in to access the pantry. So this is not something that would be, it's not like a huge box of food and you're coming with your car to get it. This is more like a case-by-case situation where there might be a student who continues to come to school, like doesn't have enough warm clothes. Like we already, from Miss Taylor and Miss Santos, actually, Miss Santos got some sweatshirts donated by a friend of hers. So they're all sitting in boxes in the office, and we need to have some way to facilitate the distribution of those to the kids who would really need them. So this would be a place to have on the shelves. There's a food section that would obviously be non-perishable foods. And then a clothing section that might be, it's different than like kids who come to school without a uniform and they get a loaner and then they have to bring it back. This is really about when we're noticing kids who are consistently coming to school with shoes that don't fit them or are ripped, or they're consistently coming to school without anything warm to wear when it's been cold outside. Or they're children who are often going home and are alone when they get home, and they are expected to make dinner for their siblings and they need food. I mean, I think it's like a case-by-case situation. So I don't know if that makes sense, but this is really more of like somebody going in with a little bag and like getting some things to take home, as opposed to like the big Wednesday food drive. Is that helpful?
And I think also, so first, this February food drive, the flyer is saying that we're getting food for both Tonga as well as the Bayshore community. This pantry is this is just kickstarting that work. So for example, this food drive that has started this week, you see this picture down here in the bottom corner is one of our beautiful children. Her and her family had stuff that was donated from their church. There's over 2,000 items that were dropped off last night or this morning to go to the Tonga food drive. Everything that is being collected right now is going to the Tonga food drive in order to partner with Pitt so that we can get all of this out whenever you guys are mailing it away. That is just kickstarting that beautiful idea to say, hey, we can help people in need outside of in the larger world community who are going through things that we may never experience. I don't know if I'll ever experience being devastated by a volcano. And so this is a beautiful thing for our kids to see. Even with all the things that we go through, there are people who are dealing with very different things that we can help them with. And this was a way for us to reach out and support Pitt, support Tonga, support all of those, our larger community, our larger family. And we're doing I mean, you should see the stuff that's coming in, and today's only Tuesday. And so that is one piece that then will be kickstarted to start some other work that Maya and I went to Maine in 2019. So this is 3 years ago. We've been trying to figure out, just like we've been trying to figure out how do we get a washer and dryer. So the food pantry is in that same bucket of how do we get a washer and dryer. It's not a food pantry. It's a pantry for families in need that we can assist them with.
But here's my thing. If we're not allowing parents to bring their children on campus in the morning time, but we're going to start this. What is the difference of that? I see that there are families that in need of whatever they want to. Where are
So-
you going to- where are you going- let
So
me
with it,
finish.
so this is not an
Let me
open,
finish,
uh-huh.
please. And then where are you going to store it? Who are the manpower that are going to be committed to
Mhm.
that? We're already short-staffed as it is. And what time are you going to do it? How long is this going to last?
So, Teresa, those are really good questions. And what I really love is that the kids in YPAR were asking those same questions, and Ms. Santos was asking them. So we have some time that we're creating the systems for this to function in. The wellness team will coordinate making appointments to pick it up. This would be the equivalent, like we have parents who come to campus because they have an SST with a teacher. That's an example of like what this would look like in terms of making appointments and facilitating those appointments. For adults to come and do that. This isn't a closet. We already have the space. It's underneath the stairs on the north side of the campus. It's not something that, it's not a room. It's not like something that we were expecting it. Like like Audra just said, all of that food that's coming in right now, that is for Tonga. That is for this bigger, the broader Bayshore community, for this big food drive that YPAR is doing. The pantry is something that would continue. This is something that would just exist. It's not something that has like a shelf life. It's not something that would end.
The YPAR students didn't suggest it for the food pantry. It was the admin that wanted to do the
So,
food pantry.
yeah, absolutely. We want to do a food pantry.
So is that can be voted by, I think we need to look at all the logistics of how this is gonna iron up before another thing is added on campus. Because there's a lot of things that needs to be done on campus before we add another program on campus.
Okay,
That's what I
agree. I mean, logistically, I hear all the great things that are coming out of this, but in order to sustain it for the long term, is how is that all going to play out? That's correct.
Right.
So, and I agree with what Teresa is mentioning here. Again, these are all great ideas, and I'm glad to see all this coming together. But I think we just got to make sure that we're looking at all the clear details of areas of responsibility and like Akua said, logistics, all this entails.
so yes, so this was brought, so first I was communicating the February food drive. Second of all, the food pantry idea was in addition to this, but I can come back in March with all of the things outlined, because I'll be quite honest with you, this is something that I am absolutely in favor for as a way for us to support our community, just like I'm in favor of getting washers and dryers. And so you have questions on logistics, we will iron out all of the logistics and I will bring it back to the board at our March meeting to be respectful and understanding of the questions and concerns that you might have. One of the main concerns that I will address right now is we're still a closed campus. This isn't like a grocery store where our doors are open and people just walk in. That's not the intent of this. The intent of this is that we are a community that wants to support our community. And if there are ways that we can do that, then I believe that we should do that.
Just to add clarity and make sure, I'm gonna repeat facts and you can tell me whether what I'm communicating is fitting with what you guys are saying. What I'm hearing is that there's concern of adding another task with the same resources that we have.
correct.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure.
Okay, so we will address that. Yep, we will address that.
And our concern is about the longevity of the program? Is that what I'm
And-
hearing?
yes. Yes. Well, the longevity in addition to
Sustain it over time.
how long it will be. Well, that all depends on the manpower, who's going to be.
So your major concern is who are we asking to do the work?
Right.
Okay,
I think that we should hold on until this COVID is sort of like really clear out.
I'll come back with a plan for you, because part of the issue on why we want to do this is because of COVID. Because there are still families in need who have lost their jobs, who have other needs. And so I will come up with a plan and work through all of your concerns so that hopefully I can address any concerns that you might have so that we can support our community. Yep.
No duplicate.
And no duplication, correct. No need to duplicate. Yes, you know I do not like to duplicate.
Me too.
Okay. School reports. Susical, yes. Yeah, Susical the musical, just an update that it will be sometime in May. We are narrowing down the dates. Kids have tried out, they're practicing. Hopefully, since our numbers are decreasing in COVID and some other stuff I'm going to update around COVID, there will be able to have an in-person actual live event. Obviously won't be filled, but that's one of the reasons why we want to push it out till May, so that we can have an opportunity, hopefully, for us to open our doors to our family members so they can see their kids perform live. So that was the update for that. The other update I just wanted to share is board policy 5131, student conduct. Some questions were raised specifically around cell phone usage. And so a couple things have come up, and so I'll have Ms. Baker answer any questions and add to it. But I cannot tell a student that they cannot bring a phone to campus. They are allowed to bring a phone to campus for emergency purposes. What we can tell students is that they cannot use their phones in class, and it cannot disrupt the learning environment. And that's what board policy 5131 states.
Is that including, when you say class, is that including?
Can I? Yes, I can say on campus, kids are not allowed. And that is our rule. Our rule is kids are not allowed to use their phones on campus. When a teacher sees them using the phone, they take the phone and they inform the office. And either the teacher may hold on to it for the day, or they may turn it into the office and they hold on to it for the day. If it happens more than once, then they don't return it to the child, and they call the parent and they say, this is the second or third time, you have to actually come and get it. There have been some situations where kids walk out and they might use the phone in the restroom, and we are not in the restroom with them, so we are not aware of that. So what we need is, just like with everything else, see something, say something. If something inappropriate happens, or kids see it, they can report it anonymously. They don't have to feel like they're turning their name in. But Mrs. Baker and nor the counselors nor myself can't fix a situation if we are unaware that the situation is occurring. And so if we're out on campus and we see kids with cell phones, we tell them to put them away, or we take them from them. I've been in the office when they've been turned in. I've seen kids walk into the office with their phone and hand it to Ms. Bowman and say, I had this out and I was told I needed to turn it into you. Talk about taking responsibility and not just walking away from the teacher and hiding it in their backpack. They're doing what they're asked. So there's a various levels. So I'll let Mrs. Baker add anything to that she wants to add.
Sure. So we have a policy. The policy was reintroduced to the children in the beginning of the year. It was also very clearly stated to the children that if they had an issue with the policy, they needed to go speak to their student council representatives to try and advocate to change the policy, which no one did. So this is very much about encouraging student voice and self-advocacy. So they all know what the rules are, and they all know because there have been times that they have challenged rules at our school and supported their desire to change the rules with a lot of evidence and changed rules. For example, free dress on Fridays for middle school, or students being able to last year before COVID, it was students being able to spend recess time in the lunch area because they didn't want to be out in the upper yard. So they're really learning a lot about self-advocacy and petitioning and evidence and things like that, which are all incredibly, completely relevant to education. So nobody has challenged this, and they're always reminded of that. They all know that these are the rules. Some of it has been also empowering our instructional aides to really feel that they have the authority to confiscate a phone if they see it. And so that has been a work in progress, which I feel has been successful. I think that our instructional aides feel much more confident in terms of their relationships with students and taking a phone. And again, just to what Dr. Pittman just said, when kids go into the bathroom and film things on TikTok, which is exactly what they've been doing, if no one is, this is something we're mitigating right now. It's just like when cell phone usage first became a thing, or social media first became a thing. And so we were kind of keeping up with what the new thing is that people were doing so that we could address the concern. That's kind of the situation that we're in now. So, when a teacher knows, the teachers are not supposed to send more than one student at a time to the bathroom. And I can tell you that when someone is walking down the hall and they will walking me and say, there's some kids in the bathroom, and I go up there and I'm like, get off, get out. This is not what we're doing. We're not doing this now. There have been exactly 2 incidences that have been reported to me of students making TikTok videos in a classroom. Both of those were dealt with. Families were called, the student was spoken with, and there was a consequence. But just to Dr. Pittman's point, if no one is reporting anything to me, then I cannot do anything about the situation. So I think this is also about, if families are seeing things on TikTok, if kids are seeing things on TikTok, or, these are the kinds of things that are happening, because this has been the main problem with the cell phones. It really hasn't, I haven't seen kids with their phones out in class. I haven't seen it be anything other than the TikTok thing. So this is like the new thing that we're contending with. And if you see something, say something. If it's not reported, it's pretty difficult to do anything to squash it. So that's kind of where we're at with it. If you have questions, let me know.
So I think 2 things that I want to address. One is the question was asked, what is our role? And so that was the reason that I brought this to the board meeting, so people understand why we're even talking about this. So for clarification, so you as board members, if a family comes to you and says, what is the rule on cell phones? You can share board policy 5131 with them, that we do not allow students to use phones on campus. If a student needs to get a hold of their parent, they can come to the office. They are allowed, because if an emergency, a true emergency occurs, and this is when the law changed, was because of 9/11, there were kids on campus who couldn't call their families. And so they are allowed to have a phone. They are not allowed to use it if it's going to disrupt the learning environment, which includes out on the play yard. So by all means, if a family member asks you, clearly communicate that. The other piece of that is, and we are moving forward. I will have more information either between now and between March, or at our March meeting. We are moving forward in terms of designing an informational night, hopefully in conjunction with our middle school students, because we did this several years ago. Our middle school students actually led the technology workshop with the parents, and with our PTO, to give an informational night on how parents can be supportive of their kids and monitor and keep an eye on social media. TikTok is a big part of social media, and I think that some families think that it's just, I'm going online and watching a funny video, but it's not. There are lots of that's a component of it, and that's an okay component of it, but there are also lots of other elements to it that we want to make sure our families know. Hey, if you are allowed, as a parent, if you are allowing your child to have social media accounts, that's a choice your family is making. These are the things you want to be alert for. These are the things that you want to watch, because you don't have control over who they're interacting with on the other side. And you just want to make sure your kids are safe. And so I think this is an opportune time for us to be able to provide some support and education to our families, because I'm the first to admit, I am not a social media person. I do not have all of those accounts. So I am not the person that's going to be able to go in and see if kids are really doing what they, or not doing what they say they're not doing. I am savvy enough to know that some children have multiple accounts. They have a forward facing account that their parents can see, and they have a backward facing account that their friends can see. Some parents don't know that. And so these are conversations that we want to have, that in order for you to make sure that your kids are safe, you got to have your eyes open. And these are ways that we can support you to go through that. And so that is in the works. It's not happening yet. It's in the works for us to figure out how we can make that happen. So this is our board policy. Phones are not allowed to be used on campus. Unless there's a situation where a child says, hey, I need to call mom or dad, or I forgot this, can I call? And the teacher and or the staff member says yes. And if things come up, we address it when it comes up. So if families are asking you, this is the rule and this is what you should communicate with them. And if they have concerns or questions, we always refer them back to Mrs. Baker, because Mrs. Baker can walk them through any of the processes.
I believe one of the terms may be that if there is a student who's using a phone, using TikTok, that there are other students in the video. So that's something that we have to bring awareness to.
Right. And so yes and no. So the law is that I can't record a conversation from you unless you know that you're being recorded. I have to tell you that, except for when you're in a public setting. So when people are videotaping things out on the corner and out on the street, they're in a public setting. And anytime you're in a public setting, you're not privy to privacy and for me to say, unless you verbally say, I am not authorizing you to record me, but then you remove yourself from the situation. And so if kids are noticing that other people are recording them, part of their voice and their advocacy needs to say that I am not authorizing you to record me, and they need to walk away. And then we can address the student who's recording. But when you're in a public setting, so there's that fine balance about, well, he recorded me and I was in the background, on what exactly is happening. Yeah, so that's just something we need to be aware of. And I think to your point as well, there are families who do not authorize their children to have social media accounts. And so having that conversation with families who don't, I would like them in the same room so that we can hear, okay, I allow my child to have social media, but his best friend's family doesn't. So I need to teach my child how to be respectful of his friend and his friend's family. And you need to teach your child how to be respectful of them and their family, because we all have different rules. And we can still be friends, but there are certain things that maybe our parents disagree on. And so you're my parent, so I've got to follow your rules. They're their parent and they get to follow their rules. But if we're all in the same room learning about this technology and how we can support the larger community, then hopefully it'll support everyone. Yeah.
I think we need to revisit that policy and maybe change the literature a little bit based on what we're seeing right now, because policies, you get to change it every now and then. I also feel that the next step is to educate our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because they signed that. Isn't that something that they?
It's part of,
signed
yes.
and agree? You show it to them.
Yep.
You signed this and you have to apply with it. I think in classrooms, we should also start, when you enter the classroom, here's a basket. Your cell phone stays in the basket until the end of the day. Maybe we need to start doing something.
That's a possible idea that we could have a conversation about.
We
Right.
are totally responsible for the phones.
So I don't want to be responsible for a $1,000 phone that a child brings to school. They should,
No, but that's
if I take it from them.
But it's already introduced to the parents. Your child's phone will be locked up.
So I think that's, I think there's two things. Hold on, Maya.
Okay.
So one is when we go into the conversation about subcommittees, you can be part of the committee that talks about board policy and addressing policies. There are two parts to board policy though, because we have to remember what the role of the board is and what the role of the school is. Board policy is to set the policy. So the policy is phones are not allowed to be used on campus. It's the admin reg and the school that determines the policy that exists to actually make it happen. Your role as the board is to not to write to the logistics. It's simply to say the policy is We don't want phones on campus because it's a disruption to student learning. Staff, you figure out how to make it happen. Okay,
What is the comment?
okay.
So the policy is right there, then when it comes to you guys, the rule keeps on breaking, so I'm just trying to help.
Okay,
you guys with
and
this.
so when we get to the subcommittee, you can sit on the committee and you can help us work through if the policies need to be changed, and then it comes back to the board
So
for the
we
board
need
to vote.
stop being softy about it and say, pretend, like, I'm just suggesting this, we're gonna keep it this way. The board was come up with the policies, we arranged the language on the policy, and then the admin, together with a tiny suggestion, be firm about it. Make it firm and steady, because we say the rule now and we get it tomorrow. The next day, we're not keeping it on a straight line, on a straight track. That's just.
So I hear what you're saying, and we will address that.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding this policy?
Maya has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Joy.
Oh.
I just want to say two things. One is that this is a school culture issue more than it is all kids have a policing issue. Because you can say all of the children have to put their phones in this basket in the morning, but if I choose to keep it in my backpack, then I don't know that you have the phone. So it really is more, to me, I feel this is much more about children being educated and understanding why this is important and having them take ownership of it than it is about making, using a lot of resources to create something that the kids will find a workaround if it's not something that's part of what they really believe and feel is part of our culture. So, schools do things like that, and it's policing and it's not changing a culture. And I feel this is a cultural shift. And so, to have that mindset. And I also feel that when parents are having issues or these things are coming up, that this is about that, again, going back to culture of, reporting things to the stakeholders who can make change, or so that we can work on this with the kids, as opposed to it being something that's below the radar. So I just have to name that those things exist out there, and there's a lot of money being spent on cute little things where all the kids put their phones in there. But if I say I didn't bring my phone to school, then there's nothing to put in there. So I'm just going to say that, and definitely keep going with that. So thank you for your questions and your concerns, Teresa.
My only comment on that is I don't agree with the whole basket thing. Unless we do individual baskets, but a collective thing isn't a safe thing, especially during these times.
I just wanted to say that it is a community issue, and that I believe the Boys and Girls Club, every system in the community might have a better policy, or they have something that they do that we could pool together and find out what is the best way to do this, because they're gonna just go from here to the Boys and Girls Club or wherever they go and do whatever they want to do. And I'm not saying enforcement in the way of policing. I'm just saying, yes, educate and then make the process really happen. So, and I bring this up because I already asked if there would be a way that we could have an advisory committee, so the community is brought into the whole picture of all of this. That would be parents, parent-teachers, associations or organizations, surrounding community. It's a community issue. So we need an advisory committee.
Great. So that's something that we can add to our working document of subcommittees.
Thank you.
Okay,
That included school reports, correct?
yes.
Thanks, Maya.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you.
Me too.
Okay, item 10, superintendent report.
So Museum of Tolerance, we are sending a group, they opened it up again, so there are 10 of us that are going down to Museum of Tolerance the week that, for 2 days, leave on Monday, the 21st, and come back on Tuesday, the 22nd, for, to attend the Museum of Tolerance again. It's all paid for, by the Museum of Tolerance so that we can continue to deepen our work with them. So I'm excited to share that. Huh? There are 10 of us. I opened it up to everybody, but 10 of us have said that they are interested in attending. In the past, you needed 30, so I thought we were going to have to reschedule, but they came back and said that due to COVID, they're acknowledging that there will be smaller groups, and so they are comfortable sharing with us. There are actually 12 of us going. I opened it up because I thought we needed 30 to La Honda Pescadero because we work with them. And 2 of their staff members are coming with us as well. And then, huh?
The board has an invitation, not that I don't want to go.
It is open to all of you if you would like to attend. I will send you the information.
I went. It's beautiful information, I think. But it's tiny, so I already went, so I don't want to go again.
But I will send everybody the information. I will need to know a yes or a no by the end of the week so they can book tickets. COVID-19 update. So this update is from the county, in San Mateo County. So our daily new case numbers are on the decline. In early January, there was over 2,000 cases a day in the county. Last week, there was 2 weeks ago, there was 500, and last week there was 350. So they're saying that we want to breathe, we can breathe a little easier when it's less than 100. Yeah, I don't know.
I think one of the attendees, they points to,
Maya and Joy, are you both on mute?
No,
I
I
feel like
I think Maya's gone.
I'm on mute. I was
Oh,
on
she's
mute.
on video. I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys hearing a knocking in the background?
No.
Okay, so then we're just gonna ignore it. Okay. What they've noticed is that most of the cases are occurring in childcare, so preschool. 2 weeks ago, there were 72 cases a day, and last week was 55, but either way, it's decreasing. One of the things that they've noticed is that the positivity rate countywide is 10%, but in high-risk zip codes, it's at 20%. So that's a huge equity issue that they're trying to figure out how to address. There is going to be a mask update. The statewide indoor mask mandate will be lifted on February 15th. So anywhere in the state of California, you can go into a store without a mask. It looks like San Mateo County is going to follow suit and go ahead and uphold that. Notice I put this all in bold. It does not apply to schools.
Or hospitals.
While we are indoor, we are still schools. So masks are still required at schools. Now, there is conversation about I'm sure you've seen in articles in the newspaper. We are getting to a point where people are going to start having conversations about we are now in an endemic, which doesn't mean it's ended. It simply means that it is at a place where we have to live with it. But for now, masks are still required. So just keep that in mind. For us, our numbers. So last time we talked about a dashboard. We did not have one because our school was so small. Since then, our numbers have increased. So I've started one, but I went back all the way to the beginning of the year. And so it's posted on our website. I have to share a different screen. So hold on a second. So it goes back to the first week of school. And ours is very similar format to what other school districts are doing. And so then it's just the confirmed positive cases. This is both students and staff. We're too small for me to separate between students and staff because then we might know who the people are. So as you can see, the beginning of the year, we were extremely small, right? Then we came back from winter break. And now keep in mind, countywide, countywide. This week, there were 550 cases countywide a day. So within a 5-day period, that was 2,500. We had 29 of those cases. Other schools had 100 of those cases. So the first week we came back was 23. The next week was 44. Then we went back down 29. Then we went back down to 8. Last week was 2. We have 2 this week so far. So our numbers are decreasing, just like with the county, just like Superintendent McGee said. We had this, increase. Now we're on the slope to go down. So I know that it felt like a whole bunch, because we hadn't had any before, break, in essence. And then we went off for 2 weeks, and then Omicron hit. But we are headed in the right direction. And I think it's really important for us, to our point about masks, is there are certain mitigating protocols and practices that we have in place that we want to continue right now. And so there's the messaging of, masks are protecting yourself. And so that's one of the things that we have done. Not only do we require masks, but we've gotten N95s for every staff member. Every staff member got a box of 20. All the board members got a box of 20. And when I say staff members, we also got enough to give to all of our after-school program, Bayshore after-school program staff as well. They all got a box of 20 as well. We also got KN95 masks for all students. They got 2 masks per student. I just filled out another survey with the county to request more masks, smaller size masks for kids. So hopefully we'll get those within the next week or 2. We have at-home test kits that we are going to send home next week for all of our students, because we're going to be out of school for a week. And the county has just come up with some that they are going to give us for our staff members. We were the only district in the county when we left for winter break that handed out for students and staff. Everybody else, when they finally got theirs, only gave theirs to students. We were able to give them to all students and staff, only district in the county. So now when we leave for our February break, we will give for all students and staff again.
No, they're going to be required to report their.
We asked them to report, and our families did. Whether they reported it on there, some struggled with the online component of it. If they weren't able to upload it online, they called us and they told us, my child tested positive, and they kept them home. Our families, when they're testing positive, they're keeping them home. And then we have now swung into, you see in the parking lot, every Monday, today's the last Tuesday that it's available. Every Monday, Friday, and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., there will be PCR testing in our parking lot. And that is open to the whole community. It's accessible on our website. It's accessible through the San Mateo County website. And so that right now, there's no end in sight. I would anticipate it probably will come to an end March, maybe April, as Omicron decreases, unless another variant comes up. But for now, we're good at least through March, because we're in the middle of February right now. Yeah.
So the last school vaccination clinic is in Redwood City. So it's over February 12th. Then there's no more event center vaccinations, as well as the schools. So I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, the last numbers I saw showed something like 80% of children 5 and older, or 5 to 11 within San Mateo County had received their first dose. I don't know what our numbers are for our district. I can pull those numbers, but I do know that a large portion of our families are getting vaccinated. And then just as on the horizon, I believe it was Pfizer submitted to the FDA to get an emergency approval for 6 months to 5, I believe it was. So they're in conversations about that right now. And so then once that happens, that would open it up to our preschoolers, who are the youngest. And so that point to where the county, where the highest numbers they're seeing in preschool, is probably because many of those children, if not all, are not vaccinated. And so now it's coming through. Bayshore Library update. I wanted to share that I got confirmation that the Daly City Bayshore Branch Library has hired a full-time librarian. I don't know the exact day, but it's hoping at the end of the month, maybe 1st of March, they will be open to 5 days a week, full-time hours. So that was an update I wanted to give. I don't know if Teresa wants to add anything as the.
That's thoughtful hours and we got it.
Summer school. I just wanted to give an update right now. It's still February that we talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of our expanded learning opportunities program, that due to this new money that's going to be continuing, we are going to be able to continue to offer summer school to every one of our students. I'm going to be sending out a survey to staff and to families to find out how they want it structured. Do they want 4 weeks, one session that's 4 weeks? Do they want 2 sessions that's 3 weeks? And then the families can choose one or both sections. And then we're going to start talking about topics, take what we learned from the last time, make some modifications so that this year will be even better than what we've had in the past. And it'll be a combination of needs for students who are behind in reading and math, as well as enrichment for those who are ahead, as well as really truly, summer camp type activities so they can enjoy themselves and they're not just here doing extra work in their mind because they're 8.
When you start a survey to the parents to decide on the weeks for summer school, I'm a little bit concerned that they all various, all the feedback will be, I want this time, I want the next parent will want this. What if we decide?
I'm going to put it out both to staff and because I need to find out who's going to be able to work. And so, then, yeah, so I make the decision. I get feedback to find out because some, like I wanted to do 3 and 3 last time because I thought maybe 4 was too long and families were like, no, just do 4 weeks. And so, but I have my own, even the 5 of us could have very different things. So it's really important that I ask our families, what is it that you want for your kids in the summer so that we can plan the best to serve as many kids as we can. We may not be it's not going to be 100% for 100% of the people. That never happens, but I still need to get their input to find out, because if 80% say that they are going to take off, and we're not going to have any kids the first 2 weeks because they want it in the middle, they want a break and then summer and then a break, and I only hold it at the beginning, then that's a disservice to our community. And this is who it's supposed to be serving. So I
going to provide the classes that you're going to offer in summertime?
Yes. Okay. Staff survey. So this was brought up by your board president, wanted to have a conversation. So this is open for a conversation in terms of surveying the staff. This is a sample of, asking questions of all staff with the work around Bayshore. And so part of the conversation is, one, is this as a board, is this something that you want us to move forward with? And 2, what is the intent behind the survey? How is this information going to be used? Because if it's just to collect data and we aren't going to do anything with it, then I think that that's something we need to address. So give me a second. Okay. So can you guys see that, or do you want me to make it bigger? Sure. Better? Okay, so question number 1 is, how happy are you working at Bayshore? I would recommend Bayshore as a great place to work. I believe meaningful action will be taken as a result of this survey. The school board and administration takes a genuine interest in the well-being and safety of staff. I'm excited about the future of Bayshore. I feel satisfied with the recognition or praise I received for my work. I feel a sense of belonging at Bayshore. I rarely think about looking for a job at a different school. I feel comfortable being myself at Bayshore, and I'm treated with respect and dignity.
I actually did some research. I didn't make these up. kind of following some of the best practices that are out there.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I did some research, and this is following some of the best practices that a lot of corporate entities are using to, especially during COVID and remote distance working. There's, definitely a lot of higher stress among employees, and I think that it's a good opportunity for us to get engaged. I mean, obviously, everything needs to be taken in context. And I think part of it is to get something of this nature and set it up routinely. So it's not just this one-stop shop, like this is like, twice a year, maybe towards the middle of the first semester and towards, the second half of the semester. And just seeing, are we, again, I would love for us to be the gold standard. This district, I mean, we're a small district, but we have amazing administration and amazing staff. And I want us to basically get to that level. So.
I think it's a great, it's great what we have as far as let's see, is there any other inputs? I'm sorry. To gauge the climate here at the Bay Shore School, amongst everyone across the board. I do believe it's important that we get a better understanding of where everyone's at, especially during these COVID pandemic times, of course, but I think this will allow us to get a better understanding of what the climate is in our school district, and even in our community as well. So, that's what I have.
Were we able to look at the legalities for the new, if this is something that we can.
We can survey anybody at any time. There's no legalities. Yeah, I can, they don't have to answer, but I can survey anybody at any time.
Okay, and then,
The other piece to that though is, and this is something that I want to really communicate with you, that we do surveys all the time. And one of my frustrations is our response rate. And so if this is something that we're going to do, two things. One is, depending upon the response rate, we need to really sell it to say it's really important that we get your feedback. And two is that we can't make change based on 5 responses when there are 50 plus staff members. And so these are things that we just want to make sure that we consider. But
so if we set our.
One second, I'm sorry, just to add some additional context to what Audrey was saying. So one of the research I was reading up on is survey fatigue is a real thing. And part of the reason that these questions are phrased this way is, in theory, it's supposed to give them an opportunity where they can technically fill this survey out in less than 5 minutes, where it's basically 1 through 5, strongly agree, strongly disagree with the statement.
And neither agree nor disagree. That's not an option. Because oftentimes you get people who say that, I don't agree or disagree. No, you have to pick one side of the line.
Okay, so when this goes out, okay, for example, when this goes out, what's the majority percentage or what's the percentage are we looking to expect to be able to receive? Is there a set majority, percentage?
Well, a good
From there.
The expectation would be 100.
a good
Might be disappointing to us, but we need to set a number, because from there, then we need to set a timeline for another one to go out. And what happens if it's not forcible? Staff don't have to take it.
right.
So there's gonna be 2 ways. Staff don't have to take it. And then you have teachers that are not going to answer anything. It's the same thing, they're not taking
Scroll down.
Sure.
A little bit. Hold up, sorry.
I mean, do we all agree on the questions?
That's why I wanted to know, and that's why I presented this to Dr. Pittman, and she suggested bringing it to the board meeting. This is not,
Okay.
you know.
This is open.
This is
This is brought for discussion. Like, we may not land on anything tonight. What we may end up doing is we may end up saying, yes, this is something we want to look into. So let's have a subcommittee that talks about surveying the staff, and two of you sit with me to develop it. And then we move forward, and then we come back to the board and we say, this is what we are presenting and this is what we want to move forward. I wouldn't necessarily say that tonight was meant to say, here is an idea. Are you guys on board? Do you want us to move forward with developing something like this? And if so, then when we get to the subcommittee portion, two of you can select to be on the subcommittee, or one of you. And that person and myself and Mrs. Baker would sit down and talk about what questions do we want to address? And how do we want the logistics to push this out?
Yeah, I do think that we need to thread the needle between that concern and the concern is it's already February. Right? Yeah, I think time is over this. And one of the feedback I've received from folks is, what good is a survey when it's given in April? Yeah, there's only one left.
To
Oh,
come
so
up with a
ending of
plan
the-
and make it better for next year. There's always a reason for something at some point.
How often do you do staff or teacher evaluation? And can you attach?
No,
No, you would have this, attached.
that I cannot do. The evaluation is bargained. And this cannot be attached. I mean, I could negotiate that, but we're not open for negotiations for another 3 years. Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Yeah, so I like the idea of the survey. I think twice a year is good, but we should also add a place for comments for each one and an open comment at the end. With every survey, there has to be action, or else you're not going to be, you're not going to want to take the survey if it's all for naught. And so as long as we ensure them that action will be taken, that yes, thank you for taking it, we've heard you, and these are the steps that we want to take based on that information. And emphasizing on the fact that if we don't get enough replies, then any action we do make, if they're unhappy with it, let them know that it was based on the information we were given and that we can't act on things that we don't know.
I think that you brought up two great points. One, when we get the results, we will make sure that the percent response is included in the report out.
Yes.
So everyone knows whether we got 100% or 2%. And second is, yeah, the way that these are all designed is they should have an open text box that moves once. And the idea is they're optional. So if a person says, I've got 2 minutes of my time I'm willing to give to this, they can still at least fill out the checkbox, whether they agree or disagree. But then if they really had something that they wanted to state, that they can type it into a text box directly related to each statement. So yeah, you brought up a good point. So probably want to have a text box included in each one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I thought that was on there. There was a little tab at the bottom, but yes, there should be an open comment for each one. Yes.
And
So I think
probably like a
it's
click button so that they're not filling in the number and they're just clicking.
Oh,
the dot.
yeah,
That's
it would
the
just be
easiest.
through a Google. Yeah, it would be through a Google form and it would be very easy for them too. Okay, so what I think I hear the board saying is that you're all comfortable with doing a survey to get information. So our next steps is this needs to be, and I will call it something specific in terms of our committee or advisory committee. At least one of you, hopefully two of you, will be on the committee to narrow this down, and we'll meet either this week or next week so that we can get this rolling as soon as possible.
I'm good.
Okay.
Can we add like conditional approvals where if the subcommittee goes through and reviews these, whether it's as is, or they say, oh, we want to only pick 5, or we want to replace several, that they can go ahead and get it sent out rather than waiting until the March. There's only 10 on there. I think.
So the question,
Give them time to respond, get time to do the data analysis of it, especially if people fill the text box.
so I guess what my question to you is it's February 8th.
Yeah,
If we met, our next meeting is March 8th.
yeah.
The subcommittee can come back with, hey, this is what we're presenting for the board to vote on March 8th. It can then be pushed out on March 9th.
Yeah.
And then we can analyze the data at the April board meeting.
Yeah, I'm just, April.
We could also call another special board meeting in between to look at the data.
Okay, yeah.
We also have a,
And again, I understand your concern.
we have a special board meeting scheduled on March 19th, so we could give it on March 8th. Yes, it's our governance with Luann Rivera. We could approve it on March 8th, push it out March 9th, and have the data available to us at our March 19th board meeting.
That's actually a great idea.
Okay, I have my moments. So,
Good
okay,
timeline.
so in trying to move forward, we will add this as a committee. 2 of you will select who wants to be on the committee, and we'll pick a date to meet this week or next. But we will bring the survey back to the board on Tuesday, March 8th, and then we'll push it out March 9th, and then and on March 8th, we'll also have the plan on what the timeline is for it. Yes. 9 a.m. You're welcome.
Thank you. For putting together that survey.
So next on my reports were 2 things. One is just letting you guys know you should have received an email from CSBA regarding Legislative Action Day. Prior to COVID, we would actually go up to Sacramento and we meet with our legislators in person. Last year it was via Zoom. This year they have switched due to Omicron and it will be via Zoom again. So if you have not received a notification regarding it, let me know and I will, and you are interested. It's not all 3 days. It's just that block of days. They'll let us know what time they schedule the Zoom meeting with Assemblymember Ting and what time they schedule the Zoom meeting with Senator Wiener. And then we would be invited to those Zoom meetings. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll make sure that I let Martin know. And then you can do it from anywhere because it's via Zoom. Then in your packet, you had the 2022 delegate assembly ballot. So there are 4 people on there that are running for 3 seats. Noella Corzo from San Mateo Foster City, Clayton Koo from Jefferson Elementary School District, Sophia Lane from Cabrillo Unified School District, and Patricia Murray from South San Francisco Unified School District. We need to select 3. So what I need from each one of you is I need each one of you on a little piece of paper to write down the 3 names of the people that you want and send it this way. Joy, you can put it in the chat. I will stop sharing so that only I see the chat. And then I will count up who got the most votes. And that, if you, here's.
Audrey, do you want me to just text you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Mateo, Foster City School District, Jefferson Elementary, Cabrillo,
Oh.
and then South San Francisco.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on the screen.
I love.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
Audrey, did you get it?
Those are the 4.
Yes. Lots of conversation. Okay, the names are all on the screen.
my handwriting, goodbye. Very easy.
Thank you.
So I'm missing, oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so give me a second.
This is where we test out sneaker laws.
Just a reminder, we have
Okay.
closed session after this.
So we have a tie. So 2 people got the most votes. So we're going with Clayton Koo and we're going with Patricia Murray. Now you need to revote and tell me if you want Noella Corzo from San Mateo Foster City or Sophia Lane from Cabrillo, because they had a tie. So I'm going to give you your papers back.
Audra, there's
They
5
vote-
of us. How is there a tie?
Because your votes were split up. Okay. Because each one of you got 3 votes. So one of you voted for, so all 5 of you voted for one person, but then your other remaining votes were split up.
So again, you said, I'm sorry.
Now you're only voting for either Noella Corzo from San Mateo Foster City or Sophia Lane from Cabrillo Unified. Those are the only 2 you're choosing from. You must choose one. Joy, are you going to text me?
Yeah, I'm just rereading their statements.
Oh, okay. Okay, so our 3 that we are voting for are Noella Corza from San Mateo Foster City, Clayton Koo from Jefferson Elementary School District, and Patricia Murray from South San Francisco. So I will mail that in tomorrow. Next are subcommittee assignments. So there are 2 documents that I had put on the agenda that share with you our board bylaws that have to do with committees. I'm assuming you guys read those board bylaws and the purpose of committees and advisory groups, okay? And so what I started was I also did some research on different committees that exist within different districts and the purpose of them. And so I've started a list of stuff that already exists within our district. I've also gone through and we can say, yes, we want this now, or no, we need a pause on it. And then there's an opportunity for us if I didn't get one. So for example, like we're thinking about this staff survey. I wouldn't call it a staff survey. I would call it maybe staff, culture, and climate committee. And then we would say what the purpose is, who's on the committee, what staff attend, because part of this is not, committees are not meant for board members to just have a meeting with the 2 of them and or with other organizations. Because remember, the board advises and staff do. And so you need a staff member to be at the meeting with you in order to figure out what's happening. And remember, you are collectively a board. So there are 5 of you that are going to move forward, and all 5 of you, we need to be on board. Well, at least 3 of you. And so 2 people can't make a decision for the entire board. So remember, when you're at these committee meetings, you are either just listening or you are giving advice based on communication that has already occurred with the whole board at a larger board meeting, because we don't want to violate the Brown Act. Does that make sense? Okay. So start off with the easy ones. We have our district representative of the County Committee on School District Organization. This person sits on the county committee. You guys voted already that that's Rick. Staff does not attend that. And it frequently occurs annually or as needed, because there might be somebody that submits that they want to change lines. So that's the first one. Joy is the alternate in case Rick can't attend the meeting. Intergovernment affairs liaison. So this person just attends city council meetings. And so Marion was chosen previously. Staff doesn't go to these, and these occur monthly. So the intent is for her to attend, but whether in person or via Zoom, and to hear what's going on in Daly City, to hear what's going on in Brisbane and how it might have an impact on Bayshore, and then communicate that back to us at a board meeting.
Audra, is the city of Daly City, isn't it twice a month?
I don't know. It might be. She wanted to know if the city of Daly City meeting, is it twice a month or twice a month? Okay. Okay. So then we're going to go through these and we're going to say, yes, you want to be on this committee. We're going to say, yes, we want this committee or not. And then we'll decide who's going to be on it. Okay. So diversity, equity, inclusion. Finance. No, don't choose yet. Okay, I want to go through all of them first. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, finance, policy development, wellness, Jefferson Union High School District, negotiations. In the future, when we get ready to sell bonds, or if we're going to build a new school, we'd have bond and facilities. We don't need those right now. We have bond money. We might have one. We might want to have two people say, hey, we still have $2.6 million sitting out there. Let's talk about how we could spend it. And if that's the case, you guys need to tell me that. So that's what I have so far. Tonight, we've said that we want to add a staff, culture, and climate. And remember, we have to think about what is the purpose of this. How often? So some of them, it might say meeting is as needed. Some it might be annually. Some it might be twice a year. Some it might be monthly. Okay.
Twice a year.
This one, twice a year. Okay.
And we'll need staff.
Huh?
You'll need someone from the staff.
Yeah, so I put superintendent and principal.
Do you have something that, that would include over there, family, huh?
Family.
Our family, our community, our family engagement.
Well, hold on a second, I don't know if you saw it, I added some notes at the bottom of the Google document that you sent.
I did not.
And I just.
There you go.
And so this is just brainstorming. So some of these maybe they're duplicates or overlapping and go to something else. So like, again, when I went on, the cookie cutter ones are board development and governance, fundraising and finance, marketing, communication, outreach, which might be considered what you're saying, family. And then the other things are data analytics, and then just neighboring district 2x2s. Again, just as an opportunity to check in with our neighboring districts. And that's just a short list if you wanted to extend it to others, or just say, hey, let's just focus on 2 of those 3, or only 1. I mean, again, this is all just, I'm dumping it on the paper for us to discuss and vet it out.
Well, and keep in mind that for some of these, like they could be future ones.
Yeah.
Like we have this bond, like I put bond and facilities is future. Like I would say that maybe we add South San Francisco as a future one and Jefferson Elementary as a future one. But I would say that for our Jefferson Union, we should also have a Brisbane because the two of us are going to have some things coming up where we share cities and we're going to eventually hopefully share some communication. So that might be a future one. That might be someone we have right now because we've met with them periodically.
Should that be a
Because keep in
Baylands
mind,
committee?
right. So, yep, so that could be added. That could also fall under, yeah, so your governance falls under policy development.
Right.
Exactly, that's why it's dumped it down there at the bottom.
And I think the fundraising and finance go
Your
together.
finance could be finance and fundraising and addressing different issues. So I also think that there's a lot on this list right now, and we haven't really been having subcommittee meetings. So I don't want us to all of a sudden come up with 20. Let's start with
Let's not do that.
small and then start moving forward. And then as we start realizing, hey, this is the work that we can do, then we can start adding another one, depending upon what's going on in the school and the community at that time.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if we come together as a community within Bayshore itself, then we can branch out to some of these other, like, cities, like you were saying, maybe in the future, South City or the other ones you mentioned, but if we as a community right now, in this area, don't have our stuff together, how can we organize?
Right, like I think it would be great if we had two of you sitting on a committee that is community outreach, because I would love for us to be a community school. And in order to do that, we've got to collectively work with MidPenn, and we've got to work with BGC, and we've got to work with the Saley Diddy City. You know, there's a whole bunch of us that have to, because Bayshore, the school district, can only provide certain things. MidPenn can provide other things. Like it would be great if we partnered and they had a nurse and we could figure out how a nurse could support the whole Bayshore community, or doctor type of thing. So I think that that's another conversation that we want to have.
Well, I just wanted to good point. The thought about the other districts was more of just an idea of exchanging information of what's working, like meeting with Brisbane Elementary School District 2x2 and saying, what have you guys been doing to problem solve these issues and exchange it.
So that's what I'm saying, it should be, a advisory committee that involves anybody who's within the geographic area. It could be even like we did years ago, like Saddle Rapids was in it. I think Carter Hills, but different communities within Bayshore, the library, the school. Oh, some of the organizations, the community organizations. Organization, BYO, couple of.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it would be interesting to find out if anyone's interested in whether it existed in the past before my time or not, but getting a Bayshore neighborhood organization.
Right, because there is one, and there's some to the extent of it happened before and then it went away. And then when we started with the block party, it's in essence been brought back because the block party is not planned by just us. There are lots of different representatives who come. And so that committee has representation from the board on it. And so I don't know what the official name of that committee is, but that would be a committee where your purpose is to do outreach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Development, community development.
I will please put my name on diversity.
I'd like to be on the staff one.
I would like to go on diversity.
There can only be two. And they could, we could do this for a little while and then we rotate through. It would help if I put the,
Alternates.
It's okay now, I was paying attention.
Mhm.
That we, all board members received the email.
And I'm hoping that all of you did not respond
No.
because,
And my response was, we'll discuss it at board.
okay,
So, but we would need to, this is actually.
That would fall under-
a timely issue, so it would fall under
negotiations.
negotiations. So I don't know if you want to know that, the EPA, Senge review, or whatever.
No, it's just under negotiations.
Okay.
The committee would be two of you sitting with me, possibly the principal, possibly the finance officer, to meet with them. You could be also be on, like, I would meet with you when we're going through legitimate negotiations for the contract and communicating with you where we are, that we then come back to the board in closed session, those types of things.
So I would be
Other column, Audra.
Huh?
Other column.
Thank you.
So just a reminder for, Rick and Teresa, based on that email, their goal is to schedule a meeting. the week of the 14th. So out of this meeting,
So we need to pick the dates today.
Well, let's not,
no, this will be between the two of you.
And me. Yeah.
Okay.
What I will do is I will close out the email thread by saying, you two have been nominated for this function. And so then they can reach out to the two of you and take the rest of us off, so that there's no Brown Act.
right. And you include a staff member, because a staff member attends advisory and committee meetings.
Um, And, well, you can reach out to that. That was supposed to be, but, and then the other thing that I don't know if it would fall under,
Can you speak up, Dave?
sorry, I don't know, if this would fall under one of the existing categories, but just the whole, data analytics and technology. It's becoming a bigger and bigger role in every business.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily fall under.
And then for that community thing, would that fall under wellness?
I can't hear you. I mean, I can hear you, but you're rumbling.
She asked if the community outreach would fall under wellness. I don't necessarily think so. I can make a new one that says community outreach.
I'd be happy to be on the data analytics.
For data analytics, is that
So basically.
Like Data Zone?
Yeah,
Data Zone, school-wise, Google Classroom, how we're all using it, and how the, the policies revolve around it.
instead of data analytics, do you want to just put technology?
Or data analytics, and a lot of times with technology, you say technology, they immediately assume hardware.
Hmm.
And this is, I mean, it can be both, so I would say, actually, that would be great, just to have both, I think it's worthwhile.
I want to ask a question about wellness. Does that tie into what Maya was? talking
Yes.
about? Okay, I want to do that.
okay. Don't be sorry. Nobody wants to sit and go over governance and
Yeah, you can include me on that one as well, unless, again, I don't wanna jump ahead, someone else's,
Should I go under finance and fundraising?
Sure.
This is what's so wonderful about this board, everyone has their own strengths.
Oh, don't count it. She's it. For Jefferson, right there, it'll be there.
You can put me with this, before, please.
What would that be? We're having parties.
So like if we do a 2x2, so for example, previously in the past, due to the Baylands, we've had 2x2x2 meetings where Brisbane and us and Jefferson Union came together and had a conversation, because that land is in the city of Brisbane, but it feeds in, it's our school district, and then we feed into Jefferson. And so we were having conversations about how we want to utilize that land in terms of supporting the students who live in this community.
I had some experience with the Waylands project when it was, well, when there was a Bayshore Residents Association.
Mhm.
Like, there's transportation involved.
Oh, yeah.
So,
She
She can go with Teresa.
yeah, I mean,
No, I'm open to that. So,
No,
You can only do
No.
2 on a subcommittee. The moment you have 3 people, it becomes a full, you have a quorum and it becomes a full board meeting.
no, you guys do it, but if you need, no, yeah.
What's missing, the future?
We don't need to worry about future right now.
Yes.
So all that's missing is community outreach.
I'll go with.
Over climate, you can add it to, just carries up, or
I didn't hear the comment. Oh, Rick wants that.
And Ms. Brown.
Okay, so what's going to happen now is some of these meetings are going to occur within the next week before we go on for break. Specifically staff culture and climate, because we're going to look at the survey. And then negotiations, because we're going to meet with the union to talk about iceberg and systems and those types of things. So those meetings are going to happen next week before we go on our week of closed campus. Then at our next board meeting, I will come back with this because this isn't completely filled out. So I need to fill out so that you guys have an idea of what is the purpose of each of the committees. And then how often those committees are going to meet. And maybe they only meet twice a year right now. And that's okay. But as long as we have an idea that, hey, this is what we're going to be doing moving forward. And if a topic comes up that we as a board want to address, we would first want to see, well, does it fall into one of these committees that maybe we want to have some research done, and we can look into that, and then we can come back to the board as a whole.
Can I be added to the data analytics and technology? Thank you.
Okay, so the last thing on my agenda was just upcoming dates. And so the upcoming dates are February 18th is a minimum day because we have no school that next week from February 21st to the 25th. I already informed you that a group of us are going to the Museum of Tolerance, which includes district staff. So the district office will be closed on Monday, February 21st and Tuesday, February 22nd. The district office will be open, but the school is closed on the 23rd and 24th. And then the district office is closed on February 25th because Monday, the 21st and Friday, the 25th are our quote unquote holidays for President's Week. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
would that be posted on
On the site?
board
It's posted on our website.
and on the, we're on or?
It can be.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So that was all I have.
Item 11. Board report. Anyone have any report out?
We'll start from here, really fast. In addition with the DC library hours, we had a DC Daily City Library trustees meeting, and Bayshore has blessed with two services that will be put there. One is it's an iPad, or no, it's a laptop system that community or patrons will check out 6 laptops, And then when they return it, it kind of circulates it and cleans it, on its own. And also there will be a document station, which the community or the patrons, whoever use Bayshore, will be able to have access to for faxing, scanning on documents, stuff like that. Yeah, great. And then the third one I forgot is that the city of Bay City even granted Bayshore residents they're working on its cost of $500,000 for every resident to have a free Wi-Fi.
Nice.
Yes, and that's going to come around, I think around June, like that's the projected timeline.
June of this year.
Yes.
And they added fiber optic as well.
This is free.
I know, Dave.
Yeah.
If you want fiber optics, you can pay for fiber optics.
No, they haven't operated.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
they brought in lines, but they're not branched out.
Exactly.
So that's, and a lot of it has to do with the workload and not having enough staff.
People to install.
Exactly. So-
Interesting.
Okay, so we are just glad, that we're having something,
That's exciting.
that we're always forgotten. I'm grateful for them to have those funds available for us. Goes not from with it. My other thing is that we will be thinking, I wanted to ask if the district can provide boxes. I've seen all those collected, because I was one of them to go get those from the church too. That Pitt will help with loading and wrapping, putting it on those lifts.
Pallet.
Taking, no, not trolleys, but the big old lifts to the pallets. We will be doing that. But we might need, I need to find out from the census if we need tapes, or the other big solid boxes.
Mhm.
That I wanted to see if the school can provide that to do that.
Okay, so in terms of process, what usually happens, just like in a classroom, is people come up with a plan and they ask for money before they go out and buy something. They don't go and do something and then ask for money. Because do we have the money to pay for it? Yeah, I'm sure we do. But what I now need to do, if this is something that the board wants, is I now need to go through because I did not allocate stuff for this. And so this is a conversation that should have happened before people just decide to move forward, because this is an element that we need to think about. The other piece is that just in terms of precedence, it probably isn't that much money. And so my concern is not the amount of money, my concern is the process. Because if somebody goes out and buys something and asks to be reimbursed and our response is it's not that much, yes, instead of following a process, then what's to happen the next time and the next time and the next time and the next time? And so this is, I just, it's not, this is not something the board can vote on tonight, because this was not an action item. This is something that you are bringing up that you want me to research. And so if the board wants me to go back and see if we have funds to pay for boxes, then the board can direct me to do that. But we cannot say as a board, yes, we're going to do this, because this was not something that was brought up and agendized prior to. And this is something that's being asked after the fact.
Okay.
Is it sponsored by the board?
It is not sponsored by the board, and
That processing has to be.
that process is.
With your staff.
That process is communicated with our staff. They know very well. They know in their classrooms, they don't go out and buy stuff and then ask to be reimbursed.
Because Pitt is only coming here to help with packaging.
Okay.
And stuff like
So
that.
there seems to be some miscommunication in the planning of all of this, which can easily be fixed. We can bring everybody to the table and fix it. What I'm asking is, I tonight cannot say to you, yes, we are going to buy this stuff. If the 5 of you want to say to me, yes, the 5 of us want you to go and see if this is in our budget, I can go back and I can do that. but it can't be from one person. It needs to be collectively. And you can say, Audra, we want you to go back and research to see if this is a possibility. You cannot vote and say, yes, do this, because this was not something that was agendized. No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to follow a process, and I want to make sure.
Representing the school, and that's the process. It's representing this school. If that was the case, this would have brought it to my attention, or even brought it to the president about the whole processing of this. That was only added to collaborate with them to help out with.
So we have student organizations that could pay for the boxes. We have.
And I don't want them to use their money to pay for, this thing is representing the school. It's representing the school. And I can agree, if the board doesn't wanna agree on it, that's fine. We'll find a way to, but I just wanna let you know that this is a school representation.
I understand that. And I'm saying that there are two conversations that need to happen. I am all for moving forward and supporting this cause. What I also have to do as the superintendent is make sure that we follow the right processes so nobody gets in trouble on the back end. So I have to wear both hats. You got to remember that. I have to wear both hats. Okay. I am all for this fundraiser. I've got tons of boxes. Annette, how many boxes do I have in my office that we could put stuff in? I mean, we are not hurting for boxes right now. And so that's not the issue. The issue just is, I want to make sure that while I want to say yes, if I say yes, I need to be mindful that tomorrow something else might happen, and then I have to say yes to that. And then Thursday, something else might happen, and I have to say yes to that. So I just want to be mindful of the process so that this doesn't happen again, and we get our ducks in a row in advance so that this doesn't happen again. So we can support all of the causes that we want to support.
Well, I would say, there's no harm in researching to see what the budget looks like and what we can afford.
Okay. So if the rest of the board is on board with that, I can move forward with that. Great.
With the caveat that we ensure that when these things are planned, if we plan on funding any of the process of it, that it's asked in advance and not after the fact. I agree with, with what Audra says.
Yes, just like when we did the block party. We can't have people out there saying, oh, well, the district's just going to pay for porta potties. That's not the way that it works. That's not the way that it works. We need, so again, yes. So it's about the process and communicating to people that when we move forward and we have a plan and we think about, this is something we're going to do. Oh, we need boxes. Okay. Who's going to provide the boxes? Maybe we could have asked for people. I'm sure we have people who have moving boxes that they could have donated as well. So you can donate a box, you can donate food. There's lots of different ways that we could have addressed this. And so, yes, so I will do some research. All of this stuff will be boxed up and sent. Nothing is not going to be boxed up and sent. It will be figured out.
Audra, do we have a budget for community events and things of this nature?
We have not set aside some that would just come from general fund, but that's something that we can think about as we write the budget for next year, that we have a bucket for fundraising and we set aside, a couple $1,000s that might go into that for things like this.
Is there any way we can go back a few years and see how much of our general fund and on what projects we've allocated funds to of this nature?
Yes, it may take a little while. It may take me and Annette some time with Sandra, but I can see what we can find out. Yeah, because we'd want to make it, we set a dollar amount that's based on past practice and or what we want our future practice to be. We wouldn't just pick an arbitrary number.
Yeah, and then if we could just set up a process that people are aware of so they don't feel that we're making it up on the spot.
Yes. Okay.
Just the Black History program coming February 19th. Just a reminder that there's a Black History anniversary program sponsored by the City of Daly City on February 19th, 11 to, but there will be a flyer distributed.
And it's posted on the agenda website right now.
Posted on the agenda.
Yep.
Oh, and I still wanted to keep advisory committee on this.
Oh, sorry, Joy. I was gonna give you that. Go ahead, Joy.
Oh.
Joy, you're-
I don't believe I have my hand raised.
Oh.
11 to 12.
So last week I had an opportunity to attend a workshop for new and first term board members. It was really interesting to get, refresher course because there was so much information to go over. It was 2 days. I just want to congratulate and thank Marion for Ms. Brown for being there. And I look forward to the Masters in Governance Course 1 in the next week. So and I think that's going to be really beneficial for us as a board. That's all I have to report.
Well, it's not windy. Windy with the internet.
Oh.
I'll try and make this quick. First, I would like to thank whoever put the Bay Shore splash in my mailbox. I did enjoy reading it. Thank you to the authors who participated in contributing to this. That was fantastic. I look forward to receiving the next edition. Second, I was just thinking about our conversation in one of our meetings regarding standards-based grading, and I'm wondering if there's a possibility to maybe even have some students put together a video presentation that could be sent, a link that could be uploaded to YouTube and sent out to the parents to understand more about standards-based grading. What else? Also, as was mentioned earlier in the meeting, the board calendar is up and running. So definitely put your dates if you're going to be participating in a city council meeting or meeting with a 2x2. Feel free to add that there just so the board is aware of what everyone else is doing. On that note, I'm wondering, this is again a brainstorm. I don't know if it's going to be a value, but it would be good to come up with a template for subcommittee reports. So if you're attending a subcommittee meeting, that we have a standardized template that you can fill out that has the date, the time, the attendees, and then a brief overview of what was discussed that can be submitted to the other board members, just to keep everyone in alignment. And last but not least, I always like to remind the community, especially those who are pet owners. I love pets as well, but please curb your dogs. It's getting really bad. Our students walk, most of our students walk to school, and people are not picking up after their dogs. So I just like to send a friendly reminder before things have to get escalated, because it is a health hazard as well. So please be cognizant of your pet and pick up after your pet. And on that note, that is all I had. Is there any other last minute questions, comments, concerns? All right, we will adjourn close our open session at 9:01.